for joining me for the Carbon for Farmers Voucher Program Round 3 webinar. My name's Kerrie House. I'm the Program Director for Carbon Farming and Bioenergy. The topics I'm going to cover off today are what is the voucher program, a little bit of history about that, the two options that are available for this round, the opportunity report and the carbon farming plan, how it works, a little bit about service providers and what's required from them, the quotes, because they're an important component of this program, the cash co-contributions, how to apply, and then there's some Q&A which the team will be running as well. It's important to remember that most of the information in quite a lot of detail is provided through the program guidelines. Now these are available on our webpage and you can see the QR code there, so feel free to read those. There's quite a few diagrams and things like that. It's not a particularly weighty document, but it does give you some really great background and explains a lot of things that you may need to know. So starting from the beginning, what is the voucher program? The idea behind it is to increase the understanding of carbon farming and to get more projects across the Southwest Land Division. We know there's a lot of interest in carbon farming from farmers. They want to know what their opportunities are, what the options are, and these vouchers fund a specified amount of the services themselves, and that allows farmers to access service providers who are experts to develop property-specific reports that identify the opportunities, look at project feasibility, and also can design and plan those projects. And it's really aimed to ensure that people are making informed decisions and that they have the confidence to develop a project. And whether that be in the short, the medium, or the long term, it doesn't really matter. It's really about having that confidence to proceed. So far, the voucher program has seen 90 farmers complete their carbon farming plans or land management strategies. We have 10 projects in the carbon farming and land restoration program that can be traced back to the vouchers that we've offered over the last few years. We also know that there's 5 voucher recipients who have self-funded projects, and there are others in the pipeline as well. So we feel that we're achieving that goal of ours, which was to increase understanding and to get more projects. So who can apply? We're looking for owners of commercial farming properties in Southwest Land Division who have the main source of income from the property in farm production, WA businesses. You need to have an ABN. And if you were an unsuccessful applicant to round 1 or 2 of the voucher program, don't worry, you can reapply. Just make sure you check your eligibility and the merit criteria. So the program's evolved over the last few years. It began in February 2022, and the idea behind it was to support applications to the Carbon Farming and Land Restoration Program Round 2. The vouchers were $10,000 at that point. We referred to them as land management strategies because there was a strong emphasis on soil, but it also encompassed environmental planting projects as well. Round 2, we did a bit of lessons learned. We did some consultation with people who had received vouchers or that were providing the services, and we increased the amount from $10,000 to $15,000. We rebranded, we now call them carbon farming plans, and that again was to support the next round of the Carbon Farming and Land Restoration Program, which was round 3. This year, because we don't have a round from the Land Restoration Program to drive our decisions, we're able to cater more appropriately for farmers at different stages. And it's for soil, environmental planting and agroforestry projects. So what we're offering this time round is 2 options. The first option is an opportunity report. This is really those that are starting out. They want to understand what the project feasibility is. Exploring the options, is it feasible? These people will have a basic understanding of carbon farming, but they really need to know a bit more before they can make those informed decisions. Exploring out how the project would work, whether it could work for them, getting some advice, and understanding what the next steps are. So for these opportunity reports, the vouchers are up to $5,000 with a minimum 30% co-contribution. So DPIRD will cover around 70% of that cost. The carbon farming plans continue to be offered as well. They are up to $15,000 for these ones. And these are the people that are really ready to make those next steps. They're they've got some understanding of what carbon farming is. They know what type of project they want, or they're pretty sure they do. They've done some pre-feasibility, but they want a lot more detail. They want the financials. They want to be able to make a decision. Go and talk to their financial advisors, etc., to be able to make those decisions so they can start working towards getting that project up and running. Now you'll see there that I've got a nice little scale there. On one end of the scale in the red are the people that don't know very much. They're probably not quite ready for an opportunity report, but they need to find out more. Then through that orange and yellow zone, you're looking at people that have a little bit of an understanding, want to find out more. Then you're moving into the I'm ready to do some action, I want to start making some proper decisions, and that's where you're moving into the green. And the people on the right hand side will be the ones that are ready to get started. So with these two options, the opportunity report and the carbon farming plan, we're looking at catering for a wider range of people. So if you're thinking about which voucher you should apply for, we've got a nice simple little diagram here to help with that. If you're still at the knowledge building phase, don't really know what carbon farming is it the same or different to carbon accounting? How do the two work together? What does this permanence period mean? All those types of things. If you've still got some of those fundamental questions, it's really important to upskill first. Go to some webinars. There's workshops. The Carbon Farming Outreach Program that's being run by the GGAs is a really great place to start. There's also things online that's available as well that allow you to get up to speed, and then you can make a decision about whether you're wanting to look at real opportunities on your property. This is where the vouchers come into that this next step, which is for the people that have considered their business needs, they've thought about it, they are quite keen, they just don't know what to do next. They want to know whether it's feasible and whether it's worth them proceeding. So those opportunity reports are for people at that project feasibility sort of phase. After that, the people that have got a bit of an idea of what they want to do, they've worked out that it probably will work for them, and they now want to have a detailed plan and design, then that's in preparation potentially for registering the project, and as I said, in the short, medium or long term, and that's where the carbon farming plans come into it. So what's in an opportunity report? Opportunity reports will have some fairly standard information across them. So whether we were comparing an opportunity report from one service provider or one farmer to the next, there'll be some consistencies of them because there's some standard information you'll need to know. So that starts off with what's the ACCU scheme? What are some of the key terms? I've only listed a couple of them there. There's quite a lot of them. And so that's a fairly standard thing that we're expecting across the board for our opportunity reports. And you'll notice there that I've put in required headings and the details associated with them. And the reason those are there is so that we can compare apples to apples. So when we're looking at the quotes that come through from the service providers, we know there's a consistency in the way they're structured, and then you could even compare the quotes from one service provider to the other, and then they're consistent. It's really important that there be a farm visit, and that's the same for an opportunity report and a carbon farming plan. I think it's very important that service providers go out and have a look at your property, have a talk to you about what you're wanting, see what the land is like, see what your business operation looks like, etc. So a farm visit is really important, and that helps build that relationship and an understanding of what's needed. And that's where the service provider can determine, can describe your business, the reasons for you doing the project, a little bit about the location, soil types. We all know they vary quite markedly across a property and between properties. The topography, how hilly is it, flat? How many creeks have you got running through the property? But also the impact of climate as well. Everyone's climate is going to be different, and there's going to be changes to that climate. So it's really important to understand the land. Really, really important. Also the current and the planned land use. Your plans, your business decisions over the next 5 to 10 years are really important. Are you planning to retire? Are you moving out of livestock into more broadacre cropping? What is your plan around some of that? So again, important to understand what your forward thinking is. Then we go back to some of these more standard things. What are the benefits of carbon farming projects? It's not just about carbon credits. It's also about productivity improvements. You've got stock shelter. There's soil health, reduced salinity, biodiversity. There's a whole range of different reasons for doing these projects, not just the carbon itself. There's a number of methods, not huge numbers, but there'll be some that are suitable for your property. It might be soil and vegetation, or it might be one or the other. And so then you've got some choices that you can make. It's also when you're going out and looking at those properties, the service providers will be able to say, well, actually, probably you've got about 50 hectares or 100 or 25, whatever it happens to be, in different locations, and look at the suitability of those. There's also these tools. There's a range of different tools out there that the service providers can use to work out what the sequestration potential is per hectare. So it's just a bit of a ballpark figure, but it does give you an idea of what the returns could be, assuming that the project is successful. This gives you that high-level feasibility based on estimated costs. It costs about this much to do these things. And then you can see what the profitability is, because after all, these are business decisions and it's really important that they be informed. Risks tend to be relatively standard. They will, of course, depend on your property, your location, and also the method that's being chosen. But again, there's some risks that need to be taken into account: fire, drought, those types of things. Then there's the auditing and reporting requirements. Clean Energy Regulator requires reporting on the project and monitoring of it. So it's important to know what they look like, how often do you need to do them. If you've got a plantings project that's under 200 hectares, there's a reduced requirement for auditing, so you need to know those types of things. The other thing to be aware of is that local governments now are putting in place development approval requirements. So you need to put together a development application to get it approved, and there's a cost associated with that. Not all councils do. And obviously you don't need that for soil carbon projects. So it's important to know whether it's applicable to your property. And the last bit is about the recommendations and next steps, because it's important to get these reports and know what types of things you need to think about next. The other one is the carbon farming plan. Again, a little bit more detailed, and it goes into a lot more of that, the nitty-gritty of what's going on. Again, description of the business, location, soil types, etc. The current and planned land use, and that's where the farm visit comes in handy. It's really important that they come out at least once to have a look around, and then they can make good site assessments and mapping of those carbon estimation areas. That's where the project activities take place. Build up site plans, work out the configurations for things like tree planting. Is it going to be in belts or blocks? If you're looking at a soil carbon project, it's which paddocks, which soil types are most conducive to increased soil carbon over time. The modelling will be in much more detail, and that's where things like full cam, in particular for vegetation projects, comes in handy. You need to be able to submit to the Clean Energy Regulator an forward estimate of how many carbon credits are going to be generated by that project over the 25 years. And so it's, again, important to have that as a relatively accurate prediction. The eligible property specific activities are really important, particularly for soil carbon. Not all soil will respond the same way to the same methods or activities, so therefore it's really important that those activities are specific and tailored for that soil type, and it might vary across a property as well. So the specific activities are important. Then we come to the project budget. This needs to take into account registration, project activities, management. You can do it yourself, but most people pay someone else to do it for them, whether it be on a fee for service or as a sharing of ACCUs, etc. And then there's the reporting as well. It is important to have a cost and revenue forecast so you can look at your profit. Are you going to make money out of this? Is it, what's the potential for ACCU price increases over time, etc. Because again, you need to make informed business decisions. Same as the last one with the opportunity report. You've got your additional positive benefits, your co-benefits that go with it. The risk and the mitigation strategy is probably a bit more detailed this time, because you will need to have a permanence plan to go with your project, because you need to be able to maintain those carbon stocks. More information about the reporting and the monitoring. Again, the local government development approvals. What do they need? When? How much? And then an overview of the registration process itself. And then the last one is looking at the business considerations. You might need to think about a company structure, trusts, etc. You might need to think about succession planning. You might need to have some financials to talk to your accountant about, etc. Now, this is where the service providers come into play, because the vouchers are going towards paying for their services. There's a range of different types of them, and we've got a service provider directory that we've been putting together for the last few years, and that gives you a whole range of different types of service providers, their details, what they do, and that's somewhere for you to start, so you don't have to Google it and try and work them out. So we've done that for you. It's not an exhaustive list, and you can certainly use someone that's not on that service provider list. It's not an endorsement from DPIRD, but it does give you somewhere to start. And it covers the carbon service providers who need to do the carbon farming plans, because it's quite a technical and very specific skill set. But there are others that can do the opportunity reports, or alternatively they can contribute to the carbon farming plans or the opportunity report. So there's a range of different people depending on what your needs are. How to find a service provider, as I said, service provider directory, but also you can ask people in your local area that might have a carbon farming project. You might have had people around that have received a voucher in the past. You might have met some of them at workshops or things like that. So feel free to scout around to get some word of mouth, as well as some actual information from our directory. This brings us to the quotes. Now, quotes are really important because there are 3 merit criteria, which I'll talk about in a little while. One of them is value for money. What we're looking at here is, do the services being offered match your needs? Are they good value for money? Are they meeting your expectations? Is it suitable for the size of property that you've got? And it's really important also to get more than one quote, because what you want to do again is get your value for money. No one ever goes and gets work done without getting a couple of quotes first. It's the same with this. And then you can test out the capability of that service provider and the suitability of their services, because then if you've got 1 or 2 or 3 of them, you can at least sit down and make an informed decision about who you want to go with and who you bond with as well, because having that relationship is going to be really important. The quotes do have required headings in them, and that allows us, when we're doing the assessment, to determine who's going to get them, because we're always oversubscribed. We need to be able to determine who's going to get those vouchers, and so those headings that have the detail in them help us do that. And each of those, whether it be an opportunity report or carbon farming plan, needs to have an on-farm visit, and the carbon farming plan needs to have that handover as well, so people can continue that conversation about what to do next. So for the service providers that are on this call or listening to this, it's important that you and the farmer read the program guidelines, check the eligible and the ineligible items, make sure you understand what the requirements are. You know, it's got to be on company letterhead, it's got to be dated, how long is it going to be valid for, those types of things. Needs to be itemised and detailed. The more information you give, the easier it is for us to assess them and for the farmer to make the choice about whether your quote is a good one or not. And it also allows the expectations to be set. Really important not to add unrelated items or rather services. It's important that the quote for the report or the plan is nice and clean. It's just about that and nothing else. And that it needs to include the costs associated with the travel. So that's your mileage, accommodation, those types of things. The thing that will come up is the cash co-contribution. Slightly different in both of the opportunity reports and the carbon farming plan. Opportunity reports, it's 30%, and so you can see the example there with good old Sally. We're paying 70% and she's paying 30%. With the second example, this person is getting a carbon farming plan. You can see it's quite an expensive one at $19,000, so it's above the voucher amount, the maximum that we at DPIRD will pay. So we would pay the $15,000, and the difference between those two figures is $4,000, which would be the co-contribution. And you can see that it's a little bit of, it's above the 20%, because that of course is the minimum. Sometimes they can go up much higher depending on how much that carbon farming plan. It's really important to get the plan that suits you and your business. A really complex business is going to need to have a much bigger report, and therefore the cost of that will be reflected in it. And it's the same with the opportunity reports. So the steps to finalise an opportunity report, pretty straightforward at the beginning. Talk to the service provider, get some quotes, do the application form, which is in Smarty Grants, which is online, and we then do the assessments of those applications. We let people know that they're successful. There'll be an agreement that needs to be acquitted in Smarty Grants, and then the go-ahead is, the bell rings and everyone goes into action. The first thing is that the service provider needs to go out on site, have a visit, and then a summary of that discussion comes to the farmer, and to DPIRD, confirming that the work's going to proceed and the approximate timelines. Timelines are important because you don't want to set up thinking it's going to take 1 month when it's going to take 6. So it's important for us all to know roughly when it will be finished, for us as administrators of the scheme and for you as the recipient. And so that's really important. So it confirms that everything has been agreed and that you as the recipient wishes to proceed. The service provider then also needs to get information from the farmer, and this is an important part. Service providers in the past have sat there twiddling their thumbs waiting to get the information that they need so they can proceed. So it's really important that you commit and give them the information that they require. Don't need huge amounts, but it is really important that it be the information that they need. Now, once the draft report has been completed, the co-contribution is then paid by the farmer. In Sally's case, it was $1,500. Any additional costs, etc., can be paid by arrangement with you and the service provider if you wanted something else on top of that the opportunity report. And then once it's been finalised, the service provider and the farmer sit down, or rather have a read of it, resolve any issues, questions, etc. The recipient, the farmer then acquits it in Smarty Grants. We do a check and make sure that what was said was going to be done has been, that you're happy, everyone's happy, and then we pay the voucher amount. So going back to Sally's example, that was the $3,500. The steps to finalise a carbon farming plan are much the same in some respects, that they start off the same way. So applying, assessing, then executing the agreement, and then after that, the recipient, once they've met with the service provider, confirmed that the work is going to go ahead, that's when the co-contribution is paid. This is slightly different because carbon farming plans take a long time, they're a bit more expensive, and so the service providers need to have that funding to get them going because it's a business expense. So the co-contribution is paid first. So thinking about the example that I gave previously, which is John, I believe his name was, he would pay $4,000 and then the service provider can get going. Once the draft is done, then DPIRD will pay 50% of the voucher amount. So in that particular example, it was $7,500. And then once it's finalised and the farmer has received it, any issues are resolved, everyone's happy, we've done the service completion check, then DPIRD then pays the second half of that voucher amount. So thinking about the assessment criteria, there are 3 things that we are looking for. The first one is the motivation and the farm business impact. This is where the voice of the farmer is really important, and that's why the application should be done by the applicant, not by a service provider. We've had examples in the past where service providers filled in all the forms and pressed submit, and then once the farmer gets it, they go, oh no, that's not right, that's not how my business is operating, this is not really what I was wanting, and it hasn't worked very well. Now the application form shouldn't take very long. It should take somewhere less than half an hour. If you've got all the information, it shouldn't take very long. So what we're looking for is the motivations and the farm business impact. Why are you doing it? What are you going to get out of it? What do you hope to achieve? The value for money is really assessed on the quote and how that matches the business and the suitability for a business of that size and complexity. And then we're looking for alignment with our program's purpose and our objectives. So that's more of an internal assessment component. But the motivation and the value for money is the key thing from the application. So how do you apply? Well, we apply through Smarty Grants, and you can see the link there. That's also on our webpage, so you can just click onto it and away it goes. You'll need to register if you haven't already got a Smarty Grants account, and again, relatively simple process. You can start it, stop, leave, come back, do those sorts of things. You can reopen it later. You're going to need, when you get started, make sure you've got your ABN in front of you, know what your property address is, the size of the property. You'll need to get the service provider's details, their business name and their contact details, and then the final quote. So you might get started and do all your bit first, which is which option you want, why you want to do it, then get the details from the service provider, and then do the quote last, and then you press submit. When it opens up, you'll notice here that you've got a couple of options at the top there. You can start a submission, so you just go straight in. You can preview the form. Now, just a bit of warning here. If you preview the form, it's got every single question, some of which aren't really relevant to you, so it can look quite long, so don't be put off by that. On that Smarty Grants landing page, it also gives you a bit of advice about how to save and various other things, and it's got a help page and things like that. These are pretty straightforward. Shouldn't really need too much support, but if you do, just email us or give us a call and we can work you through it. Now, most of the questions, we've tried to make it, again, really simple. There's only, I think, 3 written questions, which is why did you apply, what do you hope to get out of it, those types of things. So there's 3 of those. The rest of it tends to be tick a box, select from a pull-down menu which ones are appropriate, etc. We've tried to keep it really simple for you. And when you open up, you'll see that there are 8 sections altogether. The first one is read, read, read. Yes, I would like to proceed. When you tick that box, then number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. start to they become visible, and you can actually go and access them. And you can go and start any section you want. Just don't do the last one, which is where you submit it. The first one is about you. What's your name, phone number, what's your address, what's your email address, what's your ABN, those types of things. The next one's the business overview. What type of property have you got? Is it broadacre? Is it horticulture? Is it dairy? Is it beef? That type of thing. Livestock, etc. So how big is your property? Those types of things. So that's the business overview. Then page 4 is really easy. It's a ticker box. Do you want an opportunity report or do you want a carbon farming plan? Now, if you thought you wanted an opportunity report and you got through and you went, oh, actually, you know what, I probably really do need to have a carbon farming plan, you can go back and change your selection. Again, the options, reasonably straightforward. You know, a few questions, I think there's about 6 or 7 questions in each one. Page 7 is about service provider, so it's where you put in their details, name, business name, who's the contact, what's their phone number, what's their email address, and that's where you put the quote in. And the last one, number 8, is where you go tick, 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 press submit. So it shouldn't take very long. I had someone do it for me. He said it took about 15 minutes. So if you're prepared and organised, you should be able to knock it off in half an hour. So just a little bit of a recap. Option 1 is looking at the opportunity report, high-level feasibility, making informed decisions. It's a simple assessment of carbon potential, a little bit on the returns, costs, what to expect, a bit of a ballpark. Gives you the benefits, the risks, the reporting obligations, so you're again making those informed decisions. It's up to about $5,000. Opportunity reports are pretty well known in the market now. They range anywhere from $4,000 to $5,000 up to $8,000 or $9,000, depending on how big your property is and what you're really wanting out of it. It's for those people that have a basic understanding, want to explore what to do next, deciding what to do. And there's a range of service providers that can assist with that. The carbon farming plan is more comprehensive, more detailed, takes longer to do as well. That's to really support that business decision about project design and planning, preparing for project registration for those that are really on that other end, or at least you can use that information to register should you decide to later down the track. Up to $15,000 with a 20% cash co-contribution. And it's really for those people that have done some pre-feasibility, really interested in developing a project and understand what type of project they want, and that they really understand the timelines and the obligations. These are done by carbon service providers. There's quite a number of them now in the WA industry. When we first started, there weren't that many. Now there seems to be a lot more, which is great, part of our business development remit. But they can use other service providers as needed as well. So if you need more information, there's our webpage, and again, the QR code there takes you to it that gives you a bit more information. That's where you'll find the program guidelines. We've got frequently asked questions, the service provider directory, and so on. You can drop us an email. I tend to read my emails at night time, get back to people, because I know not everyone's sitting around at a desk like we are. So about CFVP, which is our dedicated email address, or you can ring Julia or Daniel. Their numbers are there. They're also on the application form as well, and in the program guidelines. You can see us. There's me at the top there, but there's Daniel, Julia, Craig, who's done a lot of work in the previous rounds, and Imogen as well. We'll be at the Darren and Newdigate field days, so you can come past and have a chat to us, and we can talk to you through them as well. So the next steps, read the program guidelines. There's only really about 6 or 7 pages. They've got the meaty stuff in it. There's a few diagrams, which you'll have seen some of those already. Gives you a bit of a feel for what is to be expected. Find yourself a service provider. Find someone that you can work with and begin that conversation and keep that conversation going over time. Build that relationship with them. We've got some really great, hardworking service providers out there that are really dedicated to these types of activities and to farmers. So they're a great bunch to work with. Get started on the application. Maybe you can go in and out of it, but if you're all prepped and ready, you can knock it over really quickly. We've tried to keep it as simple as possible. And this round closes at 12 noon on Friday, the 19th of September. That gives the team some time to start assessing it and getting together, but it's 12 noon on the dot, so please don't be late. As I said, we'll be at Newdigate and at Darren Field Days, so you can come and chat to us, and there's lots of information on our webpage as well. Now, the team will go through a Q&A with you based on the questions that came through when people were registering, so that will happen. But it's also important to remember that we've got FAQs, frequently asked questions as well, which cover off a lot of the things that we've heard from people before, and so therefore it covers lots of those things. But if there is something in there that's not covered, drop us an email, give us a call. We love a chat, and so it'll be really good to talk to you. I wish you all the very best of luck. This is probably our last voucher round, so it's very important that if you are interested in one of these, either an opportunity report or carbon farming plan, you throw your hat in the ring. We're keen to get as many people across the line as we can, and so it's really great to be oversubscribed again for this round. So all the best from me, Kerrie House, and the team, and if you need anything, you know where we are. Thank you.